And we did it. That is another one down. That is another season in the books. Let me know in the comment section below, how many seasons did this make for you? How many seasons have you officially, I don't know, seen in your lifetime? I guess it was on my mind this year because everything went so quick. I'm looking at the Bucks and Heat in the first round and I'm like, bro, it feels like we just did this series. I remember it vividly. And we kind of did just do it. As compared to a real year or a regular year, it would be 12 months in between playoffs. And this time I think I counted it was like 8 since we did that series, give or take. Either way, I think all things considered, it was a successful season. I know throughout the year people were saying it was trash and this season is so bad. Most of it was because there was injuries to major players. I get it. But considering that we started this right in the middle of a global pandemic and there wasn't a large break that had to be taken, they successfully did All-Star Weekend. There was never a breakout in the NBA. Yeah, some players caught corona. Yeah, that was obvious. It's gonna happen. But the fact that it didn't have some wild outbreak and they were traveling and all that, for what the situation was, I can be happy with this season. I can appreciate it. I can also definitely appreciate the play-in because up until the final buzzer, there were games that I cared about. That never happens. Maybe you'll have an elimination game or this team isn't going to make the playoffs, but the fact that all games yesterday, almost all of them had an effect on seeding and who was going to see who, and we had so many different possibilities, this needs to stay. My team is in the play-in and I'm saying this needs to stay. Maybe they can amend it, maybe they can make it make a bit more sense, but the play-in needs to stay. This is something that, I don't know if y'all remember, but years ago people were asking for a tournament just like this. We got it, then people started complaining, but I think the viewership is going to show overall interest. Look at this full week. Normally this is an off week. I think between the season and the playoffs, normally we don't have basketball. We have a whole tournament and it's LeBron and Steph. We got it. How did the stars align to give us our first LeBron and Steph playoff implication basketball in the West? Don't know, don't care, but I have been getting the play-in tournament wrong in like the last 2 or 3 videos. The way I thought it happened, I thought that the 8 seed was going to have to beat the 7 seed twice. I thought it would be like a mini 3-game series. No, that's not what happens. These are one-offs. So if you're still unclear, because there's been multiple versions of this floating around the entire year, what's going to happen is the Lakers and Warriors are going to play once. If the Warriors win, they get the 7 seed. Now all of a sudden the Lakers would be playing for the 8 seed and they would have to go against the winner of the 9 and 10 game. That's how this happens. It's winner take all. I like it that way because there was no way the Warriors are going to beat the Lakers twice, not in my opinion. Speaking of this, since we're already doing a bit of bracket talk, I think this turned out how the Lakers and Clippers wanted it. Clearly the Clippers were trying to do some manipulation. Yeah, you might just say they were resting guys. Yeah, but whatever, bro. Look, this season basketball, it doesn't take place in a vacuum. They're looking at the standings just like we are. Nobody wants to be the team that has to play the Lakers early on. And the way it is right now, today, at the time of this recording, the Lakers and Clippers would not meet until the conference finals. That is something different than when I made the video saying the Lakers couldn't win a championship as a 7 seed. See, now all of a sudden that looks kind of possible because what's supposed to happen is the Lakers are supposed to body Golden State tomorrow or Wednesday. I think the game takes place Wednesday. The Lakers are absolutely supposed to body them. I came to the realization that the Warriors and Blazers probably would have been the more entertaining play-in game, just as teams that was probably more competition. Now looking at it, the Lakers are healthy and ready to go. LeBron is catching lobs. AD looks nice. There's no reason the Lakers should lose a game unless Steph just goes off. That's the one reason you don't want to be in a play-in game with Steph, is because there are times where defense just doesn't matter. He will pull up on an incoming double team if he has to. He is capable of making those shots. So yeah, if Steph punches somewhere in the neighborhood of 50 and his team is feeding off that momentum, of course they can definitely get a game. But if we don't get a Super Steph game, the Lakers should win that. The Lakers would then secure the 7 seed, and with the way the bracket is set up, that gives them the Phoenix Suns in the first round, the heavily injured Denver Nuggets in the second round, and not the Clippers or Jazz until the third. That is a big difference. That is not at all what I anticipated. I kind of thought you were going to see the Clippers at third, but they played it, man. They played the game. They tanked against the Rockets. They lost their last game. They are now playing the Mavericks in the first round. That means they are on the top side of the bracket. Unless the Lakers are to lose against the Warriors and we do get a Super Steph appearance, then the Lakers would be a seed, and all of a sudden they're playing the Jazz in the first round, then the Clippers in the second. Now that would be something. I don't anticipate that happening, but anything could happen. So yeah, I don't believe the Lakers 7 seed championship thing. I don't think that's a hill worth dying on anymore. When I thought they were going to get the Clippers early in the playoffs, I was like, okay, first play-in game, then you go against the Suns right there in the second round. I think earlier in the playoffs where they're still maybe warming up or trying to catch their rhythm, getting a team that's been a little bit more together throughout the season, I was like, yeah, that might be a tough ask for them. Now, I mean, look, I don't know what you want me to say here. The Lakers are better than every team, like a lot better in my opinion than every team they're going to face up to the conference finals. I think they're gonna get the Suns in 6 games max. I could see it being 5. AD versus Phoenix is going to be fun to watch. I see food. I don't know what y'all see when y'all see that matchup, but when I see AD versus Suns big men, I see food. So I feel terrible for Chris Paul. It sucks that he even was floated around in the MVP conversation this year, and it was another young team that he had just taken and not really put them on his back, but definitely infused his leadership into. Did all these great things to probably end up being a first round out with one of his strongest chances at a title in years. I didn't think it was gonna happen anyways, but this is still one of his best chances since those really good Clippers teams that kept getting injured. So that's unfortunate, but you know, that's how life goes. Chris Paul's career, I might need to add to that video I did on the main channel talking about just a series of unfortunate events in his career. That this is another one, bro. The Suns are not beating the Lakers in the first round. I don't see it. The Jamal Murray-less Nuggets are not beating the Lakers in the second round. The Damian Lillard Blazers, if they are to put some we believe stuff together and end up going to the second when we all think that they're first round outs, neither one of them are fucking with the Lakers. They both got beat by them last year. Nothing's different this year. I thought the Nuggets might have had a chance, just maybe, if they were together. They are not. Lakers, just go ahead and write them in pencil in the conference finals for me. I find the top side of the bracket much more interesting, minus the play-in. Grizzlies Spurs play-in, I'm gonna watch it, sure. I appreciate Ja Morant and all that good stuff, right? But I don't care about that matchup. I don't care about the Spurs. I wanted that to be Zion and the Pelicans. I'm disappointed. However, yeah, the rest of those matchups are very interesting. So the Clippers and Mavericks, it was fun last year. There was no Kristaps Porzingis. I think it's going to be fun this year. Jazz Grizzlies or Jazz Spurs, whichever one that happens, that shouldn't be any more than 4 or 5 games. But then the second round, the Jazz versus the Mavericks or the Clippers. Fingers crossed it being the Clippers. I'm trying to get the Battle of LA. That's my agenda, trying to make that happen, especially in the conference finals. That's what we got robbed of last year. In any case, Jazz and Clippers, I think that would be a lot of fun. I am worried about Donovan Mitchell. The fact that we are basically at the playoffs now, and the only update we had is that he needed to miss another week. I'm not sure if they're just preserving him as much as possible because they were able to hang on to the first seed without him, or if he really needed that and he's going to come back slow. That will play a huge part in how good this series is, or if they even get to advance. I want the Clippers to advance. I am well prepared for the fact that it might be the Jazz. I respect them more than I did at the beginning of the season. Yes, I watched Utah games this year. People have a hard time believing it because they wouldn't dare watch Utah themselves, but I peeped it, man. I peeped it. I don't think they are a joke. I've done this whole spiel a million times. The Jazz could definitely end up in the conference finals. That's where this ends. Now, if the Jazz were in the conference finals, I 1000% think the Lakers would take them. They would be back in their second straight. If it were the Clippers, now here's where I am with that. Basketball wise, I think it's a great matchup wise, all that good stuff. But the Clippers mentally, bro, there is a mental game in basketball, right? And I peeped the Clippers not wanting that smoke early on in the playoffs. Now, strategically, that makes sense. It makes sense. Everything is not black and white. This is not Twitter. We do add nuance. It 1000% makes sense to not want to play the Lakers in the first round or the second round. So trying to dodge them, absolutely, that was a smart move. You're trying to win a championship. You know, fuck what the media says. However, doing that makes them look a little bit shaky given their history. Given that we know they are susceptible to a gargantuan collapse at any time, given that we know this is the Clippers, when you add that to the fact that it looks like they were kind of ducking and dodging, I have trust issues with them, man. I have trust issues stemming back from last year, but I really have trust issues in picking them with an LA team that by that point would probably be fully healthy. They've gotten all their reps in. They are 1 series away from the finals. I almost feel like I would be a fool to pick the Clippers in that series. Of course, this is not any of my analysis. This has nothing to do with the X's and O's on the court. This is just purely basketball jargon, basically. To be on the safe side, I think I would pick the Lakers to win that series. However, I do think it would be 6 or 7 games. All depends on what we get from Kawhi Leonard. I know in like the last 2 weeks, he seemed a bit slowed. He was dealing with that foot injury. Serge Ibaka is back. Man, it's hard not to feel like a lot of this was planned. So many guys came back right before the playoffs started. I don't know, whatever. Ibaka's back, they're healthy. Whatever happens, bring on the Battle of LA in the conference finals. That is where I am putting all my energy. Hadn't even talked about the Eastern Conference, by the way. The East is fun. The East is more fun than I expected it to be. So, Celtics fan here, please just go ahead and put us out of our misery. Here is where I am with the Celtics. I do not care if they make the playoffs. I'm just going to go ahead and be real with it. I don't care, bro. The only thing that I see, and maybe I'm just too negative, but all I see is a chance for Jason Tatum to get hurt in a series against the Nets because they're going to get swept. They should get swept. There is no reason that series should be competitive. The Celtics have not been together all year, hadn't had their defense together. They had one good flash, and that was when they were healthy, and they're not healthy now. At minimum, you could say, okay, they'll get some guys like Pritchard, playoff experience, Naismith, that type of thing, right? So playoff experience for guys, something important for them to carry over into next year. Okay, I could see that. I'm not even against that. But, okay, if they lose to the Wizards in the first play-in, and then, let's say, the Hornets advance and they lose to LaMelo, I'm not mad, bro. I like Westbrook and Beal. That's awesome. I really like Westbrook. Loving watching LaMelo Ball develop. These are some cool teams. Those are some cool playoff teams. If they go ahead and send the Celtics packing and they can rest and Jason Tatum can get 100% because he's been taking inhalers before games this season. Not sure if that's something that's ever going to go away, but if we can just kind of get back on our feet and retool, that's all that really needs to happen in Boston right now. I am not one of these 8-seed fans or 7-seed fans that are like, yeah, playoffs no matter what. I don't see what it does for us right now. I absolutely do not. However, at the moment, they could hold on to the 7th seed. They could play the Nets. The Wizards could also play the Nets, which, again, Westbrook and KD. I'm not sure if people really care about that little subplot anymore, like as much as they did when he was on the Warriors. I feel like that would be a fun little tidbit to have in NBA history. So if that's what happens, hey, cool. Still should definitely be the Nets in like 4 or 5. The Wizards did play them kind of well this year, though. So the thing with the Nets is that we just don't have any sample with Harden, KD, and Kyrie. We only have 7 games with them. I believe one of them was against the Wizards, but that was so early on. They've just had so few reps that this should be sweet, but maybe the Wizards can win a couple of games off them. You just don't know exactly what you're going to get. The Hornets could grab a spot as well. That would put them against the Sixers, or the Celtics could go against the Sixers if they lose, or the Wizards. Like, anything could happen in the East. There's a lot that could happen in the East. I think that play-in is a bit more even than what's happening in the West for obvious reasons. Either way, the Sixers should be able to handle whoever they play quite simply. That's just what it is in the East, right? It's nothing like the West. It's not a bunch of teams that are kind of close in stature. Speaking of which, I did kind of miss that in the Western Conference. If the Warriors are to hold on to the 7th seed, or not hold on, but to take the 7th seed, and they play Phoenix, I think that would be fun just to see Curry against Paul. I think it's more realistic the Warriors are going to end up playing the Jazz, and watching Rudy Gobert in drop coverage against Steph will be hilarious. That's something I would also like to see. I'd like to see Steph at least take that 6 games, but if the Jazz are healthy and together, they should be able to dispatch the Warriors without much issue. End of the day, I'm just here for Super Steph games. So yeah, the first few Eastern Conference matchups on the top and bottom they're going to be a breeze for the Sixers and Nets. Now, then you have the Bucks playing the Heat and the Knicks and Hawks. Given everything that happened this season, I think the Knicks and Hawks is actually going to be the best playoff series in the first round of the Eastern Conference. I think that's kind of the most even, where you have huge gaps with whoever the Nets play and whoever the Sixers play. I think this one is going to be the most competitive, and it's because I don't see the Bucks and Heat like I did 8 months ago. It's crazy how quickly things change, but although the Heat did hit a little bit of a hot streak here at the end, I think the Bucks have gotten to be a better team. Giannis is a little bit better. They've got Drew Holiday now. Overall, they're a better squad than they were last year. And the Heat, I think Jay Crowder is going to be an underrated missing part of that wall that they were able to build last year. Of course, Miami has been trying to find a rhythm the entire year. They've had guys in and out, playing all types of different lineups. They were one of the teams that were most heavily hit by COVID, so to be able to put together a run and eliminate Milwaukee in the first round again, that would be one of the more impressive things that happened in the playoffs. I picked Miami last year. I did. I watched them play all year. I watched them play the Bucks all year, and I saw that one coming. I think that was the most predictable series of the playoffs. This time, I am going to go Milwaukee. Obviously, Miami is going to try to employ some of the same strategy that they did last year. I don't think it's going to be as effective. I'm super excited to see Drew Holiday as the playoff fit next to Giannis, being that that's the guy that they brought in. Even if it takes the Bucks 6, I think that there's not going to be another quote-unquote upset. Last year, that was an upset. I don't think this would just be a flat-out disappointed. This would be so tragic, and it's a good thing. Shout out Milwaukee fans. Shout out for y'all being able to retain Giannis so early on, because if y'all had Miami in the first round right now and we were heading towards Giannis free agency, given what happened last year, that would be a very nerve-wracking series. Still, though, it would just be devastating for the optics to have Giannis go out 2 straight years, and then this time in the first round, nah, no way that's gonna happen, right? And the Knicks and Hawks, I'm very excited to see playoff Trae Young. I think I'm gonna go Knicks though. New York popped up on my radar very early on because, well, like everybody else, they were just a punchline to me. They clinched the 4th seed. Julius Randle, most improved player. Derrick Rose has had, I wouldn't really call it a resurgence. He's kind of been good for the last few years, but now he's doing it on a playoff team, so I'm very happy to see that. And the Knicks defense. Nerlens Noel, rim protector. I think the Knicks are going to get this one done. 6 or 7 games, but I've got New York advancing. For Trae Young, that would be ginormous to be able to advance in his first playoff series. I know he's got a lot of doubters, definitely enough haters. I'm going to pick Knicks though. That would give us a second round of the 76ers and Knicks, and then the Bucks and Nets. Oh, the Bucks and Nets. Because the Nets finished the 2nd seed, to get to the NBA Finals, they have to go through both of the other contenders. Bucks and Nets would be so much fun. Will be so much fun. There's no reason that shouldn't happen, right? Is Miami really going to spoil that? If Miami doesn't spoil that, this is going to be so much fun. Giannis is going to put up 30 plus a game. The absolute best chance the Nets have against him is Nick Claxton. Even if he's going to do a better job than DJ, he's not going to stop him. He might barely slow him down. But I did watch I watched more than two, but the two recent Nets Bucks games, they did not have James Harden. If my memory is not failing me right now, I think both of those were close. The Nets pushed them both times without James Harden and without any semblance of defense against Giannis. So we're in a playoff series where two of the big three were able to push the Bucks as they did, and now they're gonna add Harden onto that. I just look, I would be so happy for Giannis if he was able to get this done. At that point, I would probably be looking at him making a finals run, but that's not where my pick lies. It's definitely gonna be like Nets in 6 to me. The Bucks should be able to get some games. I would be very disappointed if the Nets big three was just that powerful and it only turned out being like 5 or even a sweep. That would be disappointing. I'm hoping for the more competitive series where Giannis is able to break through and really give them a scare. However, I think that's all it's going to be, is a scare. Another second round out for the Bucks. Tough, but we kind of knew that when last year they lost to Miami. A lot of us looked and said, oop, next year KD shows up, it's not going to get any easier. And now we're seeing that probably materialize. That brings the Nets to the conference finals. Even if the Knicks are able to get some games off the Sixers, there's no way Philly should lose that. Philly goes to the conference finals. You've got the Nets and the Sixers. The Nets at that point would have been able to take Giannis out. I think they would do the same with the Sixers. Joel Embiid is going to feast the same way Giannis would. But honestly, it might kind of work against Philly that at that point, the Nets would be the first super duper challenge that they've seen. Because who would they have played then? Maybe one of the play-in teams, and then the Knicks, who are good, but they should not push them so damn far that they're battle tested or anything. It'd be the first contender they played. Whatever you think about the other teams, whatever. This is the first contender they would play. I think when the Nets and Sixers last played and Brooklyn pushed them with the B team, I saw a lot of grins on the Nets bench like, oh yeah, we got these guys. They almost won that game and they had to put Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons back in. I believe Kyrie was the only star playing that game as well. Of course, that was a hot run and you can't really translate that to playoff basketball. I get it. I'm still going Nets here. If it were the Sixers and Bucks, it'd be a bit more interesting to me. The Bucks would then have disposed of the Nets, which would give me a lot more confidence in them. Yes, I still would kind of be thinking a Giannis final run at that point, but also the Sixers would definitely be more defensively equipped to handle the Bucks than the Nets are. Mix it up throwing Ben Simmons and Matisse Thybulle at him. Joel Embiid cannot defend Giannis. That is not a great game plan to win the series. Hopefully we don't get stuck with that. Obviously, I believe Philly would have a better chance of going to the finals if they were to get Milwaukee instead of Brooklyn. Either way, if everything holds, I am picking the big three. It makes everything a lot easier when you have a super team because, well, picking against a super team is picking an upset. 3 of the most offensively talented players in NBA history. Yeah, it's just an upset can happen, but I'm not picking one to happen. So that would give us Nets and Lakers. All that work to give us Nets and Lakers. Same place I ended up in the podcast, huh? I still don't have a good clue who would win that one. I got to see LeBron healthy during the playoffs. I got to see the Nets together for pretty much the first time all season. If they're to meet, I seriously don't have a clue, bro. Flip a coin. Like, we didn't even get a good X's and O's preview this season because both teams were hurt both matchups. Of course, at that point, if the Nets are in the finals, that means they've already dealt with things that they defensively can't deal with, such as a Giannis or an Embiid. Fingers crossed for this being a 7-game series. We absolutely need the drama of LeBron and Kyrie and KD. Yeah, no, we need all that drama. Have it go 7. Best man wins. If it was like that and it went 7 games, I would pick the Lakers. LeBron that close to a repeat and his 5th championship, oh yeah, and one of the most impressive championships of all time given what happened this season, yeah, give me the Lakers in a game 7. But, you know, everything is really a question mark at this point. Still, we have not figured out the play-in. Donovan Mitchell, health. LeBron, health. Harden, health, because he just sat out with his hamstring again. Of course, I guess that's just management, but he hasn't had a lot of reps. There's question marks everywhere, man, just like there's been all season. But I'm hyped. I am super hyped. We made it here. I think we made it here as good as we could have. So I am just going to sit back and enjoy. And I'm probably going to spam playoff videos, so be ready for that. Anyways, let me know what you think is going to happen. Let me know if you enjoyed this season. You can give me a game prediction for each series, all that good stuff. And make sure to also hit the like button, comment, and sub if you enjoyed, while hitting the bell next to my name if you want notifications every time a new video drops. Appreciate you watching, and I'll see you all on the next one.